Hearing stuff like that, and even the hearing some other stories that you see online afterwards, that's the stuff that really hits home for us, that we are able to not only provide like a fun experience out there, but provide a safe place for people to grow.
If there's one takeaway, one lesson to be learned, a mantra, anything from all you've been through, from your successes, your failures, everything that you're about, what would you say that is?
Just go for it. Go for it. If 10 years ago I didn't go for it, I wouldn't be here, Wouldn't have this beautiful house, wouldn't have met all these beautiful people, wouldn't have my son, wouldn't get to do what I love for a living, Could have settled for a day job that I wasn't happy with, but instead went for it, and it's turned out pretty damn good.
So here we are on the Weird Music Podcast. We got Zack and Casey from Essential Productions. So for everyone out there listening, Zack and Casey are 2/3 of Essential Productions, along with Kevin Harris. If you don't know, Essential Productions is part of the reason the scene here in the Midwest is so strong, has such a strong community. These guys are putting on shows all the time in Cincinnati, Covington area. In addition, they do Paradise Music and Arts Festival, which is coming up. We'll have a ticket link in the description. And they also put on something we all know and love, if you listen to this, Resonance Music Festival and Resonate Suwanee as well. I want to start this off here in the origin story, like how and why you got into this whole adventure that has been Essential Productions for you guys.
I actually was born and raised in Columbus, so your neck of the woods. And after going to school at Wittenberg, which is like just north of Dayton, I met my now wife there, and we moved down to Cincinnati because that's where she's originally from. And while we were up there, we did a lot of like street team work and like work exchange kind of stuff for like Electric Forest, All Good Festival, a bunch of different kind of events like that, as well as doing street team stuff for indoor stuff all over the country. And that's where we really kind of found our love for, music-based events. And once we moved down to Cincinnati, I knew that, I don't know what it was exactly that I wanted to do with the music business, but I wanted to be, involved in some way. So I started throwing, small shows at Stanley's Pub and Mad Frog and a couple other like spots that were on the Cincinnati side of the river, which was a little bit closer to where I was located. And in that time, I started to see shows from this company, Essential Promotions, which was largely based from across the river, the Covington area. And after a few weeks of them coming on my radar, they started throwing shows with Pigeons, Turquoise, all sorts of stuff like that. And I was like, okay, like these guys are all throwing the stuff that I want to be throwing. So actually it was when Casey booked Ott for the first time. I reached out to him and I was like, hey man, I'm a big fan of Ott and all the shows that you've been throwing, and just like, been trying to book him for a while. So like, wish you guys the best of luck with that. And Casey actually invited me within about 2 minutes of talking to him invited me to throw the show with him, to co-pro it. So we threw the show together. We sold that one out, and we both had kind of had a couple of shows, some at like Madison Theater and some all over the place that were, we had booked separately for the next 2 to 3 months. So we told each other, let's have like a, trial period where we get together, and for all these shows, just put them together for now and we'll just see how they go. So we sold out Ott, and then we had like 800 something people for Lotus at the Madison Theater. I think that was one of our next big shows. And then Joe Popata was another one of our big ones. And after a couple of weeks of success like that, we were just like, dude, let's just do this. Let's make it official, and let's do this together. And in that same year was when Casey started finding inspiration for the festival stuff. And that's when it really kind of took off.
Casey, was it pretty similar from your perspective?
Yeah, just I went to a bunch of different music festivals and then realized that I wanted to be a part of it. And I was like, let's start small and start throwing shows. So we started throwing some small shows. We did a free summer series with Pigeons, Turquoise, Manhattan Project, and one other band, The Mantras.
That's right,
yeah,
The Mantras.
Yeah, that was the free summer series down in Covington at Old Town. And half the shows we get like 15, 20 people to show up, and they're free shows. I mean, you can't ask for a better deal than that. And so Zach was doing the same thing on the other side of the river, and he's getting 50, 60 people out for these tiny little, like, I remember you would always do this band Laser Pony.
Yeah.
Always. And I got this message from Zach, and I was like, you know what, let's merge this thing. And of course, the first show we merge, we sell out. And then we do Lotus on a Tuesday night, and we get 800 people. Then the first show that we officially merged together was the Polish Ambassador. Sold that out too.
Yeah. Oh my God, that's right.
Yeah, but no, I mean, it was so, that first year when we merged with Zach, things just took off pretty fast. We told ourselves, we sat at a table one night, we're like, you know what? In about 4 years, we'll throw a music festival. And 6 months later, we were throwing a music festival. Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, things have been great. Things have took off from there. And I mean, we started doing it because we wanted to give people a place to be themselves. I mean, that's what we felt when we went to the music festivals. It was just to bring people together and bring the music that we like and have a good time.
And so starting from that initial motivation, did you expect you'd fast forward to now and see yourself so all in, like doing this in such a big way compared to, you know, those humble beginnings?
No, honestly, I couldn't imagine being where if you'd have told me 10 years ago we were going to be here, I'd have laughed at you, to be honest. I couldn't imagine it. And I don't know what the heck's going to happen in the future, really. I mean, I just can't imagine where this thing's going to keep growing to.
Yeah, that's something too. That's like, you know, when we started with that vision, I mean, we threw our first Paradise, which was up in the hills of Houstonville, Kentucky, just on one of our friends' farms up there. And that was, you know, we were inspired to find stuff that, like, you know, that those moments that we had at, you know, All Good for a few of our years there. You know, the workout was a big impact on us too, and a big influence on us wanting to throw a festival. And it was actually even, you know, some of that work that we did for those guys that eventually inspired us. Working with Kenny, he helped us out big time for that first Paradise and a lot of other events after that. But yeah, we really just wanted to continue to replicate what we found that was good in all of these events that we were a part of, and share that with as many people as we could.
I'd love to hear you guys talk about in your lives, in your careers, with the work that you do, how success and then fulfillment are like different with what you're doing.
I think there's a lot of work that goes into making these things possible. And there's also this, you know, a community of people that has to make these big events possible, especially like the Resonance and Paradise even too. You know, it's a lot of people and a lot of effort that goes into it. So you know, all of that effort, you know, you're trying to reach that bottom line, you know, so you're creating this budget that you think with this lineup that's going to be able to make it all work. So like in terms of success and building that on success, you have to get to that point to be able to keep building towards the future. You know what I mean? But I think in terms of that sense of fulfillment, that kind of will come without the numbers too. You know what I mean?
Think about our last event, Resonate. We lost $250,000, and I would say it's the most fulfilled either of us has felt after an event in 9 to 10 years.
Yeah, some of the best reviews, and even just being there amongst the people, it's like you're out there and you're trying to put behind you and not in your mind, you know, losing a lot of money on an event, and it feels like it's taking a step back as far as that success goes in that direction. But then once we were out there and we saw just the good time that people were having, people taking care of each other, people feeling like they were amongst family when they were, you know, people that they had just met. Seeing that kind of stuff is really the big impact for us. And that's when we really feel in our hearts that we've accomplished something. You know what I mean? Aside from the budget and the loss and everything like that, when you see people out there having a good time and feeling the feelings that we wanted to recreate and the experiences that we wanted to recreate and in new creative ways too, seeing that is what's really special and fulfilling for us.
It's how you define, success. If you're talking monetary success, then, it's different. You know what I mean? Monetary success doesn't necessarily create fulfillment at these events. But obviously there's those times where you knock it out of the ballpark where you feel successful and fulfilled. That are those are the ones you really shoot for.
I remember Resonance 2019. This is my best friend. He was my roommate in the dorms in college. And then we got an apartment together. He introduced me to so much music, and suddenly he passed away 2 days before Resonance 2019. And I still went, and I couldn't even hold it together, but I had such a deep healing experience there. Like, I just felt such, like, I'll never forget how quick it was and how like deep that wound felt. But then, well, like, I remember Chris Salvato picked me up in his golf car. I had a good cry, and I've just completely felt like, okay, like, I've processed this. And I know people have had grief and haven't processed it, and it's stuck with them. So I just want to share that. Like, I will never ever forget, like, resonance and that healing for me, like, go hand in hand. I just felt like mentioning that after hearing your guys' response.
Grateful to hear that, man. Grateful.
Yeah,
to be a
grateful.
small
That's
part of
awesome,
that.
man. Yeah, that's like, you know, hearing stuff like that, and even the hearing some other stories that you see online afterwards. That's the stuff that, you know, really hits home for us, that we are able to not only provide like a fun experience out there, but provide a safe place for people to, you know, grow.
And not only people like fans, but, you know, I think back to Goose getting 3 sets that year, and just how, like, you guys changed those guys' lives, giving them those opportunities here. And not only their life, but they have all this huge fan base now that is so connected to them that might not even have gotten to hear about them, at least at this quickly along their career, if it wasn't for the home you guys gave them. So, you know, it's pretty amazing to see this like grassroots entrepreneurship involve into such like this expansive, impactful thing to both artists, fans, and then people who don't even like live around Ohio, who are now huge fans of bands like Goose or whatever bands have come through Covington that you guys.
Yeah, it was Pigeons first, and now it's Goose. And Goose, man, we feel really grateful for those guys, because there's a lot of these bands that we help give them those sets, and then they go to a bigger promoter, they go play events like Halloween, which we love Halloween, and we're really tight with the promoter there. But Goose this year, big offer from Halloween, decided to play Resonance instead. Yeah, and I mean, that goes a long way. You know what I mean? Like, they're the biggest band in our scene right now, aside from Fish, really. And I mean, they're comparable to Fish at this point, it seems, really. Getting close, at least, as far as ticket sales. Sold out a 10,000 cap arena, Mohegan Sun. But yeah, I mean, and them, they're going to come play Resonance. So, I mean, that's what we do it for right there.
What do you feel are some of the intangible traits, you know, the characteristics and attributes that you two have that have allowed you to have this success that you have with Essential Productions?
I know for myself, my dad listened to great music my whole life. So I was blessed with an ear for music. So when I hear something, I'm like, I typically have an idea like, wow, those guys are gonna be big, you know. And that first time we heard Goose, I was like, holy crap, these guys are it. They're gonna explode. So we tried to expose them. Even if we did free shows with them, and even if they lost money, we did another free show a month later with them, because it's like, we need to get these guys in front of as many people as we can. And I remember Resonance 2019, the one you're talking about, we put them at a late night set in the barn, and all these bands were complaining that were supposed to be bigger bands, you know, sell more tickets than Goose at the time. They're complaining about not getting that set time, et cetera. And then you see what's happened. I mean, all it takes, this industry is so fickle. Sorry to get sidetracked, but this industry is so fickle. You've got so many great bands out there that never get a chance to get that set, never get exposed in front of 3,000 people, that after the set start talking their minds off to everyone they can about the band. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it just, in this industry, it just takes that one set, get exposed. If they play that one right set and they take advantage of it, then you got a chance.
I remember that set.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, I mean, Zack is just as organized as you could ever be. He's as driven as you could ever be. He works the weeks of Resonance. I mean, he'll work 100 plus hours, maybe more, 120 hours. As crazy as that sounds, he just doesn't sleep year round. He does our taxes. He does so much for this company that people have no idea from top to bottom.
I appreciate that, Casey. That was nice of you to say. And I think I'll go for one for me and one for him too. I like that. So I would say for Casey, I think a big thing, you know, with his intangibles, it's the one from the very beginning that I noticed was leadership. From the moment I met him, his ability to lead a group of people and inspire people, including myself, his ability to inspire me as a partner and as a person has been probably one of the greatest like impacts on me as a business person and just as like a human being. I think his ability to be positive and work through that and inspire people is what makes him a great leader and what makes him a great business partner. and for me personally, I think, perseverance, I think that's one quality that I have that I try to stay true to. And it's funny to hear Casey talk about his dad and what has kind of inspired him to be who he is in terms of the tangibles, because that was a big thing with my dad. I mean, my dad's favorite cartoon character was Wile E. Coyote, because the dude never gave up. No matter how many times he couldn't catch the Roadrunner, he would just never give up. So that was something that my dad instilled upon me, was that, like, things can go bad and things can go whatever way, but as long as you don't give up, you've always done your best, and you can always, kind of hang your hat on the end of the day, hang your hat on that. And I think that's always been a big thing that's kind of gotten me through the tough parts, and as well as, trying to just do the little things every day too.
Right on. So we got Paradise coming up, Resonance in just a few weeks. I want to talk to you guys about, so these events are different, and you mentioned you both go to a lot of events. You've been to a lot of festivals. I'm curious to hear from you two. What do you think are some commonly overlooked things by other festivals? And maybe you can also talk about when in your early days, people who kind of showed you the way, and then ultimately with Paradise and Resonance, how you take what you've seen might be overlooked, and some lessons from people like Kenny or Rob Chafin, who've kind of showed you the way, and how those kinds of things are wound into the DNA of your all events.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, there's one person and one person only who showed us the way how to do this, and it's Kenny Holmes. Rob's a great guy and does great stuff, but Kenny is the guy. I mean, from the first festival we threw, he was on the property a week before, setting it up, telling us everything. I mean, stuff that we would have never thought about. So much stuff that you never think about. When you do these events, you're just wild-hearted, and you've got these big eyes and think like, oh, I'm just going to put these people on a stage, and you don't think about the intangibles. You know what I mean? Like Kenny does it all. He just thinks everything through, every little step. He thinks about everything that could possibly go wrong too. And from the first time we threw a festival, I mean, he just showed us exactly the way to do things. Yeah.
Yeah, big attribute in our early success was, having somebody like Kenny and Rob who had, done the workout for a few years, and they had, made all of their own mistakes, and they were able to give us the cliff notes to begin with, and be like, hey, this is the stuff that you just have to avoid completely. And, we made a lot of our own mistakes along the way too, but I that those guys were a huge help and giving us good perspective on that. And I think that one thing that, people don't tend to see is there is, the community of people that are the folks that are coming to our event, but also the community of people that are the ones that are putting the event on. You know what I mean? If you go all the way down to for residents, there's a position for every single thing. And I think the amount of teamwork that it takes to make something like that work, to go through all the tough situations, it takes a really, really solid group of people as staff members to be able to do that. And I think that the ability to do that as a team is something that I think gets overlooked for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of people overlook the porta potties, getting them cleaned enough. I mean, you get enough of them out there, obviously, but then you got to get them cleaned twice. Honestly, at Marvin's Mountaintop, we paid these guys an astronomical amount to be on site 24 hours a day, pumping shit, for lack of a better term. But it's when you got 10,000 people there, and there's not enough infrastructure, there's only so much you can do, But a lot of people will get the Johns out there and only get them serviced once a day. That's a big thing that people overlook. And I mean, the ingress and egress those are two big things that Szabo knows a whole lot about that people overlook. I mean,
yeah, I love those words.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, getting 10,000 people into one site is always going to be a tough feat, and people just overlook it.
So Paradise, you got Ripe and Magic Beans and String Dusters. There's these bands that they're like staples kind of in our scene. And I'm curious to hear from you two how you evaluate artists that you're planning on booking. And then like furthermore, how you evaluate artists of different genres and the work you do to kind of keep different genres together that have overlap a little bit within, you know, your event. So I'm definitely curious to hear about like your thinking that goes into the curation.
For Paradise, it's just a little different. So we try and do a little more family oriented stuff for Paradise, but then we sprinkle stuff like the Beans in there. So those younger heads still come out. And then you got the band like Ripe, who there's a lot of people in our scene who haven't heard of Ripe, you know, and they're extremely talented, extremely talented. They're as musically talented as anybody you'll see. And so we try and get them a little exposure too. Those bands that we know, like we hear them and we're like, you know what? That's another one of those bands that they're going to be huge someday, in my opinion, huge. And so we're trying to get ahead of the curve and give them a proper set time, give them some proper billing. They're headlining Saturday night. So we can, when they're huge, selling out arenas, et cetera, they look back like, hey, these guys helped us out. Let's link them up. And it's a funny thing, Ripe's actually celebrating a bachelor party in town Thursday through Sunday of this week. So you'll get to see them out floating around Covington / Cincinnati all weekend. Yeah. And then as far as Resonance goes, you know, I mean, you just try and create an experience with that one. You obviously you want to get some bands that people haven't heard and get them exposed to that too, but you got to have the bands that bring the tickets. You got to have bands like Goose, Lotus, Umphreys, Pigeons. I mean, list goes on and on. We've got the day after Paradise, we got a big electronic headliner to announce for Resonance. So excited about that. But yeah, it's just, I mean, trying to get that good blend of jam, electronic, bluegrass, just so people can come out and have, like, I mean, all different walks of people can come out and enjoy something, you know, even if it's not necessarily their cup of tea, they can come out and experience it and have something else that they like.
Oh, well, hell yeah. Wrapping up here, you know, so much respect, appreciation for what you guys do. Like I'm from Connecticut. I'm not from Ohio. I came out here for school, went to Ohio State. And, you know, when I discovered what's going on in Columbus and then what you guys got going on down there, like there is such tight camaraderie between music fans around here that is not like that where I'm from. And it's amazing for sure. And there's, you know, someone's got to put the table here for us all to sit together. And that means like more than any of us could ever tell you. Like, you know, looking back on the memories with our friends and people I know from your events. But anyways, like, thank you so much for all that you do. I got one final question.
Yeah,
of course. I want you both to answer this. Casey, we'll start with you. If there's one takeaway, one lesson to be learned, a mantra, anything from all you've been through, from your successes, your failures, everything that you're about, what would you say that is?
Just go for it. Go for it. If 10 years ago I didn't go for it, I wouldn't be here, you know. Wouldn't have this beautiful house, wouldn't have met all these beautiful people, wouldn't have my son, wouldn't get to do what I love for a living, you know. Could have settled for a day job that I wasn't happy with, but instead went for it, and it's turned out pretty damn good.
I love it. What about you, Zach?
Gosh, man, that's tough to follow up, but I think I'm just going to have to go right with that. I think that was one thing with when I first started working with Casey, I had, you know, a lot of fears about, you know, branching out past local bands and taking the bigger risks on, you know, bigger guarantees for artists that I, you know, at the time wasn't even dreaming of doing. And Casey was like, let's go for it, man. Like, we got to go for this. And I think it's true, man. I think you got to go for it. You can't let your fears be the reason why you don't go after something you want in life. And I think going for it is, I think that's the mantra too, man. You got to go for it. And yeah, you don't want to look back on things and say, oh, I could have done this. And like with the leaps that we've taken and all of the accomplishments that we've had, and like those accomplishments I'm thinking of just working with some of the best bands in the scene, people that I'd never thought I'd ever work with in my life or had my event. Like, had we not gone for it, then yeah, we wouldn't be sitting here talking to you about it.
Oh man. Yo, shout out to you two swinging the bat for real.
Yeah, man. We got lucky, brother.
So great to talk with you guys.
Yeah, you're the man.
Yeah, thanks for having us, man.
Looking forward to hanging in person. See you soon.
Likewise. I super admire what you guys got going on and can't wait to see you soon.
Yeah, see you, brother.
Absolutely, man. See you in Paradise, man.
Well, if you made it this far, thank you for tuning in. Big shout out to our sponsor, Thrax. Check them out if you're looking for some incredibly high quality CBD and THC gummies. Also, big shout out to J&J Distribution. Retailers, check out their brands Kush Burst, Death by Gummy Bears, and Compassionate Buds. Also, big shout out to SEM Tickets. If you're throwing events and you're looking for a reliable ticketing source that's well priced, look no further. Got links in the description. Much love, y'all.